He saw the best in me. Okay, so I had to like reconvene because it was something amazing. And it reminds me of every time I go to that water. Now, I don't think it's something in it, but I think it's something about it. And you can take it metaphorically, figuratively, however you want to, chop it up and use it and disseminate it. But one of the things that you will always do, you will always, what is that? You will always experience a lot of ups and downs. It's just all about how you decide to bounce back from it. Now, those quiet and peaceful moments are important too. And you got to know when to leave people alone. That's important as well. I think leaving people alone is something that I actually learned how to do. And one of the things that I learned how to heal about myself a long time ago, when people go through like childhood trauma, depending on how severe it is, that's how that's kind of how their personality develop. Sometimes a person, if they did not get a lot of attention and affection, they become heavily nurturing, over nurturing it, I guess, if that's a phrase or term. So they will their personality will develop based on the things that happened and how they were raised during their childhood. So women already being nurturing, some women will become overly nurturing in an effort to provide something to another person that they never had. And being that person helps you heal to a degree. But then when you learn how to separate that from the actual being is when you learn how to go and do it on your own. So sometimes you have to be in those situations to go ahead and give that nurturing to another person. However, it's up to that person to go and pick up the baton and finish that work. So understanding who you are in your place and why you're put into people's lives in certain seasons is very important, because you don't want to get too caught up and you don't want to be that person that carries their burdens. And when you carry a person's burdens, you basically stop them from growing. They don't learn how to live life and make decisions without you. And that's important. So I give an example. Like I had a friend, or no, a family member, that when they would go through certain things, they will always be able to call me and say, hey, can you do this? And I will always be there. And part of healing some of the things that I had to heal in myself, I needed to learn how to say, heck no. And after a while, I became a professional at saying no, get somebody else to do it. So, and every type of relationship is different. So with that being, that was a family member. Generally, it's like and I can't speak for everybody family, but I'm just going to say some of the things that you go through is similar to in any and everybody family. Everybody got some crazy family members. Everybody got some sane family members. Everybody got them in between people. So with that being said, all of it is pretty much just a different body. That's it. So when I started saying no, I can honestly say that person handled it a little better but they found ways to make sure they were able to do what they needed to do to sustain themselves. So I looked like 10 years later, this person had flourished in a way. They flourished to where they I even helped them, like when it came to using the titles and skills that they had, move into a profession. So with that being said, if I help you with that title that you already have, reword it, put it on a resume, and go make almost double the money you already had. When I come back to you in 10 years, and if I don't see you are actually using that and you're doing better with it, that ain't on me. I'm just being honest. So it was great to see that 10 years later, this person learned to stop calling me and asking me to do things. And I was absolutely, my heart was filled, because sometimes people don't pick up what you putting down. So again, learning how to separate yourself from being put into somebody's life for a season to be a blessing, and having to do it over and over again, it can be very exhausting and time consuming. But you have to know when to cut the cord. So I'll give another example. Trauma bonding. I've seen people literally trauma bond with a person so long, they end up marrying them people, and they'll be sitting in relationships or situationships for a long daggone time. And then it would have to be a major circumstance, like to where they like, bump this, I'm out. But then they want to use up the resources afterwards, because they got themselves in such a situation because they thought that they can be that person to another person. And I'm not going to go into detail about it because I see it all the time. But you can have a similar situation to a person. You can empathize with a person. But at some point in time, you got to cut that cord, because at the end of the day, you're not their mama. Y'all don't have an umbilical cord attached to one another. And there's nothing wrong with detaching yourself. You can realign with that person a little bit later. But again, when you attach yourself to a person too much for too long, you become one. And that's similar to when people say you are basically who you hang around and things of that nature, right? So yeah, your tribe and your vibe, it's a real thing. And it's been a lot of years in the making for me. So when I decided to speak about a lot of things, I said, okay, I'm going to take my time. But when I elevate, they always talk about isolation before elevation. And that's a true thing. And I really wholeheartedly, like, it's one of the toughest but most rewarding places to be in. And if you don't know how to cut people off and leave people the hell alone, I don't know what you're going to do with your life. But I'm here to tell you. And I'm just a nobody trying to tell somebody. I'm just a PhD dropout, baby. Catch it. So when I say that because there's a lot of, every time I went and got a certain level of education, I pulled back and did a lot of life experience. So with that, you have to be a lifelong learner. I had somebody come in my comments and said something about, oh, if you do this, you get a lot of student loan debt. That's a lot. My baby, my problem is not your problem. Moving along. So with that being said, I had a lot of life experience because I did not want to spend my life going straight across through all these studies with no life experience, because it was going to leave me even worse. Now I can say I have sat and let people play in my face. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. You know why? because life is the best teacher, and it's like the best hands-on training you can ever get. So with that being said, letting people play, you are able to write down. I literally have like a book for each person that I've ever encountered in my head. I have so many different chapters that I can write and break down like a novel. So what I decide to do with the knowledge, I can use it for quantitative, or I can do qualitative studies on you, mother. Okay? Catch it. So what I like, you know, being alone, you a bad mother. Shut your mouth. So I said all this to be helpful in a way to help people to understand the spaces that they're in. That don't mean that you're gonna be there forever. Another thing, when I was live earlier, I was just talking about the area and how brutal some of the winters are. And when you live in places that have brutal winters, they can take you to some crazy places. Like for real, no lie. It can either make you or break you. I actually had a family member that came back to the area that hadn't been in the area for a long time, and they were here during a winter. And that particular winter, I promise you, it has not snowed like that since. That's crazy. I always got a story. It has not snowed like that since. Like the snow was so bad, it was like you literally couldn't open your front door. And it really doesn't snow that bad here. It'll mess up the roads, stop traffic, make it icy. However, this specific winter, it snowed maybe 3 or 4 times. I kid you not. And that person had came from a tropical setting, and they had been moving and running. And I'm gonna be honest, they had a substance abuse problem. And they moved around and they did so much. And it was a lot of crazy things that I feel like God was dealing with them. That ain't had nothing to do with me. Because I said, Lord, they done sent some serious demons over here. How in the world is it snowing so much? So that person was like, I can't take it. I can't deal with the cold. I'm about to go. Like they started making plans to leave. When they left, it was something on them that had to be dealt with. It's all I'm saying. And I ain't gonna get into all the extra business. That's another good story time for another time. Cause they tried to play me. And they tried to play in my face. And I got to see some crazy stuff that happened to them after it. I'm gonna leave that alone. I ain't gonna get into that. That's messy. That's another story. That's another story there. But it was something that had to die off of them because they had not lived here in this climate in the winter in so long. So some things in the winter, let me tell you something. If you live somewhere and it's cold during the winter, I just take like further north, I don't know how they do it. But it's something that dies off. And I'm not gonna lie, some people go through seasonal depression. Excuse me. That's why it's important to know yourself and know your body. You know, a lot of people they load up on B12 and all these different vitamins or whatever to help them, because we have melanin. We need vitamin D more than anything. Now, I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, having a very high dosage of vitamin D because I had a major deficiency while I was pregnant with her. And I remember that much. Like, that was a really, really good time. But anyway, baby, sometimes you got to leave these people alone. It's nothing wrong with it. You are only a person, and you can only do the best you can with whatever is gifted to you, given to you, and within the context of you being able to work. Okay? I have been in some of the craziest situations, circumstances, and working in certain places. will put you there. So when I say I'm a PhD dropout, I say it proudly. Hear me out. When you decide to sign up and be in certain systems, in certain spaces, it's other things that you have to agree to. Now, depending on what you do with that, you have to already have your own structure or entity to work within that. So, say, let me give you an example. If I said, okay, I still have time to go finish those studies, I'm going to build this practice over here, work that, and then I will go and do it, because once I finish that, I can work within my structure to make change. A lot of people come out of an institution, which is a university, whatever it is, and they go into another system. And again, when you go into that system, you are there to fulfill their mission, their obligation to their shareholders, stakeholders, whatever the case may be, and you can easily get stuck. So when you get stuck, this is the time that we're in. It's a lot of people that are in these places and they're stuck. And they're going to continue to be stuck because you know what? These places are laying off left and right. They're replacing people. And it's so many cuts and things that are not being talked about. Now, I'm not going to lie. I have been spiritually prepared to talk about this since 2014-ish, but I have not been acting on it. I did not want to talk about it because it was something that I saw in those years of being in a system, being in an organization. It starts to strip at you spiritually. It starts to pull and tug on you in different ways. So a lot of times, say for instance, you have a spouse or a loved one that will come to you and it's a spirit on them and you don't recognize who that is. A lot of times that comes from that space. So I have a person that I personally know, and they work for a large corporation. And I'm not going to name that corporation because it's well known. Now, I've worked at that corporation, and it was coincidental that we both worked there around the same time. So it was certain things I started to see. It was just the mannerisms, the attitudes, it was like working with animals. So it brought out a different type of aggression, a different type of beast in people. And that's what they mean by the beast system. Stay with me. So I started seeing a person in a space. They were different. They were humble. They were very nice. But then I seen them in that beast system. So that beast system turned that person into like this very angry person. And I thought that they was gonna like put hands and foot on the person that they was with, because I had to really sit there and actually experience that place to understand the type of anger and aggression and emotions that are brought up within that organization. And so it's a major company, and it's a heavy pressure load. So sometimes people come out of it and they caught up in whatever, and they ended up taking it out on the other person. So again, this is similar to the times that we have right now. And people have to be really careful on what they decide to do and how they do it, and whatever it is that you have, a gift, a talent, a trade, you have to be able to find a way to use it differently in the world. That's what it's going to kind of come to. So Yeah. Like, however you can find a way to get out of the beast system is going to be the key to um your physical health, mental, and spiritual health. And a lot of people like, well, how in the world can I do that? It's people that do it all the time. It's people that build businesses. All they need is I look at it like this. Now, when I did go to people's churches, I kind of seen it for what it was. It was more of a social club, in my opinion, because a lot of these people work in certain organizations and they maintain and open up these relationships throughout these organizations. That's kind of what it is, right? That's no different when you go down to some of the city hall meetings. A lot of the people are there to make connections, connect with the community. That's what it is, right? So when people start doing that and they have like a business, to say if you were CPA on your job and you know things getting a little sketchy, you might want to go ahead and set your organization up and start doing business with businesses. Because I'm like, all you need is one contract. You can get a state contract, you can get a federal contract. You know what I'm saying? Just work with what you have to move towards where you want to be. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to stay there. And I've come across a lot of people that say, I'm at a place, but I never planned. A lot of times, again, they say, this is where I am, but this is not where I want to stay. So, again, make it work. Like, I've come across people and they talk about how you can do it, and all you got to do is go to YouTube University. It's plenty of people that talk about everything you want to know about on the YouTube. Okay, YouTube University will teach you every daggone thing about something, like how to break into certain industries, how to break into certain things. So I just feel like it's time. And that was that was 10 years ago when I was told that's what it was going to come to. And I tried to share it with a lot of people. They weren't receptive. Some people were. Some people were receptive, and some people put their foot forward and made things happen. So that's all I gotta say for right now. I'm getting ready to go and rest and enjoy some of this rain. But y'all be blessed. Stay up.